Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you a video giving you some of my thoughts on the Blacklist. Now, the Blacklist is a 10-season show, about 218 episodes, I think, so obviously I'm not going to be able to cover everything in a TikTok video. But it's a show I've been watching for the past year or two, a few years actually. Never fully caught it when it aired, but had been watching it at my own leisure. Really enjoying it throughout for the most part. And had just finished the last season, season 10, a week or two ago. So I just wanted to give some of my general thoughts on it. I may do separate videos down the road, talking about like the series finale specifically and maybe other points of it. But for now, I at least wanted to get my general thoughts out there. And it's a show I liked a lot. Of course, being on NBC, it has the high 22, 23 episode count. Aside from the 19 episodes, I think, in season 7 or 8, during the pandemic. So with a story like this, I was always worried that it would, sort of be hurt by the high episode count, just stretching it out to a point, or having some filler cases. I'm not saying the Blacklist was impervious to that at times. But overall, I think it had a really interesting story. And it did the episode-to-episode stuff better, I think, than some shows out there. And, of course, at the center of it, you have to immediately talk about James Spader in the lead role of Raymond Reddington, who I think is one of the most fascinating lead characters, I think, in television history. Yes, I am serious. I think I had heard at one point Kiefer Sutherland was originally going to be in the role. But I think James Spader's casting was 100% key to the magic that the show did have, throughout. James Spader's delivery, mix of charm and, the whimsical nature of him on occasion, mixed with like that darker, almost like Hannibal Lecter-esque, side to him. Along with just like the depth of the character and the overarching mystery, he portrayed it so well, and he was absolutely compelling and always engaging to watch. Even if you're not as into like the main plot of the show at points, like he always makes you want to pay attention, and he always makes you want to listen to what he has to say. To be honest, they handled his character well throughout. They always made his scenes count. And I think it's definitely a worthwhile story to check out, even just for him alone. The surrounding cast, weren't, quite on James Spader's level, I won't say that, but they definitely grow on you. Ryan Eggold was a highlight, playing the character of Tom Keene in that, and then that brief spin-off, Blacklist Redemption. Megan Boone, I thought, was decent for the most part of the show. I do think there maybe should have been different casting at various points that could have held up to someone like James Spader a little bit more. But I do think she got better as she went. She's definitely very good with emotion. And you have Harry Lennox, who is almost our DC Martian Manhunter. But you've seen him in similar roles, like in Dollhouse and such. But his role as Harold Cooper, I think, was pretty fundamental to the show as well. Not to mention Diego Clentoff. I probably am mispronouncing his last name, but he plays, Donald Ressler. You can see him in this, then go back and watch his part in Mean Girls and have a lot of fun. But I got increasingly more and more endeared to him throughout, too. Not to mention some of the actors that kind of went in and out of the show, I thought were always pretty good. But yeah, I know some people had, I won't get into like direct spoilers in this video. I know some people had problems with, they never gave us the answers, they never gave us, the resolutions, or, with Raymond's identity specifically, but they clearly did, okay? Again, without going into direct spoilers, the later scene, they allude to it, early on in the show as well. But there's there's a couple payoffs you could point to throughout, but I think it's kind of towards like the later part of like season 8 and into around that area where they do something that's very, I think, beautifully done. And it's beautifully kind of portrayed with regards to him and the answers to that. And there's a great usage of like visual imagery at this point as well in this season 8 finale that I think is really, really satisfying. Excuse me, heart-wrenching. If you know the scene I'm talking about too. But at that point, then there are various other indications throughout. You definitely have your answer about Raymond's identity. And if people say otherwise, I get not liking it if you don't like the answer to, again, the overarching mystery of the show. But, flat out go off the way some people do about it, I think points to other issues. You can like it or not like it, I guess, but I for one thought it was pretty well done. And I think season 8 had a lot of the payoff of the show, and season 9 and 10 on occasion could feel kind of like a one big epilogue, which I think was fine. And then like the series finale itself, I thought made a lot of sense for what the direction would have to be after, what happened in season 8. So I think they did about as good a finale as they could have for the most part. In terms of like my favorite seasons of the show, I'd have to. I really feel like I have to rewatch the first couple seasons again, just because it's been so long at this point. But I think obviously the first 2 seasons were very, very good, great. I thought everything of Mr. Kaplan that kind of picked up in season 3 and 4, especially, were phenomenal as well. Fantastically done. I think that was one of the landmarks of the show. Was season 4 in particular, but season 3 had like this great consistency to it too. 5 might be my 5 or 7 might be my least favorite. I'm not sure, and that's just splitting hairs. There's something I remember and something I really enjoy about every season of the Blacklist. I know some people had issues with 6. I thought it was really good, and had some important growth for Raymond and Liz's relationship, as well as playing on a certain like direction they could have gone with them at one point as well. Season 7, I know I just said might have been one of my least favorites, but in hindsight, I do still think it was, again, good. Season 8, I think, is underrated as hell. And I don't necessarily think 9 or 10 were as good as 8 ended up being, but it was definitely refreshing in a sense, I guess, and very different. And it's definitely something that's really going to be really interesting to go back to. I feel like 9 and 10 were probably at least on the level of like your seasons like 3 and 6, somewhere in that area. So yeah, I know there's so much more I could say about it, to really get into it, but this is just a TikTok video, and I'm coming up on the 10-minute mark. But yeah, I do think it was a very good show, even if it could be kind of case of the weekish, and I know people aren't into that all the time. But with James Spader's character, it always felt different, it always felt special. So as long as you're into him, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, I think it's definitely worth watching. Just every facet of the character, I don't want to stop. I'm going to rewatch it at some point, that's for sure. But yeah, let me guys thought about it, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.